Welcome to Talking Water, our monthly segment where we discuss all things water and wastewater, brought to you by our sponsor, our regional authority, East Gippsland Water. Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Water. This morning we'll be talking with Mark Summers, Coordinator of Risk and Emergency Management from East Gippsland Water. Mark, welcome to the program and thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Hello, Damian. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, Mark. Now, we have lots of interesting things to talk about today, but first off, can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you started in the emergency management area and how that eventually led to you working in risk and emergency management at East Gippsland Water?
Well, I've been working in emergency services and so on for quite some time. I started back in the ambulance service some 25 years ago, and during that time I was also in the CFA and in the middle of the Black Saturday fires in 2009, and I was actually looking after the area around Buxton, which is where I lived at that stage, right. And that's that area around Marysville as well. So after the fires, I started looking at some of the broader issues in emergency management, not just the emergency services, and that led to a role in the Yarra Ranges Council where I was looking at emergency management planning. After that role, I took up a position down here in Gippsland, where I was the manager of regional operations for the State Emergency Service, the SES, and after that position, I then moved to the Northern Rivers in New South Wales, and then the Rural Fire Service up in Queensland, where I looked after an area that roughly 1.5 times the size of Victoria.
So you certainly have done a bit of moving around.
Moved around and worked in different states and so on, but it's good.
Thanks, Mark. So what first attracted you to this type of work and what do you enjoy about it?
Look, I've always been community-minded. I've always been involved in things like the Scouts and so on. Being a volunteer with the SES and the CFA, and even when I lived up in Buxton, they still had a volunteer ambulance at that stage, so even though I was a career paramedic in Victoria, in Melbourne, I was still a volunteer ambulance officer up there. But yeah, I've been involved in lots of different community activities, and I guess that's just been ingrained since back in those days of the Scouts.
Thanks, Mark. Now, I understand that while you were managing the SES in the Northern Rivers region, you decided to study for your pilot's licence. Can you tell me how that came about?
Yeah, look, as indicated, I've moved around a bit, and when I moved, I didn't have much to do at night time, so it was good to try something different. I was looking for a bit of a challenge, and so yeah, I saw a sign that said, learn to fly here. So I went and joined that, and that was really good because it gave me a chance to get my hands on a different way of thinking, a different way of doing things. And so I learnt to fly in New South Wales, and I carried that over to where I moved to Queensland, particularly in outback Queensland, and became very much a bush pilot, flying into people's properties and dirt strips and so on.
It would have been fun doing that sort of work indeed. And the decision to become a pilot changed your life in many ways, didn't it? You volunteer your time, your plane, to provide medical transport for Angel Flight. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm really fortunate that where I'm working at the moment with East Gippsland Water, they give me paid community service leave, but I also use my rostered days off to volunteer as an Angel Flight pilot. Angel Flight provides non-emergency transport for people who need to attend medical appointments when they're a long way from home. So I use my plane to transport East Gippsland-based patients by air to their specialist appointments and treatments in Australia's southeastern cities. Travelling by air saves the patients a lot of time when they get to their medical appointments up in the big smoke. I've also discovered that being a pilot for Angel Flight is a great way to combine passion of flying and helping people where I can. And I'm really fortunate that East Gippsland Water supports me to do it, and it's good for the community, and I really enjoy helping out where I can.
Wow, that's fantastic, Mark. So what type of plane do you fly, and how often are you doing the Angel Flights?
So I've got a Cessna 172, which is probably the world's most common aircraft. Yep. And it's a very simple aircraft in some respects, but it's very dependable as well. So I've got that, and I probably fly that around 2 or 3 times a week at the moment. But that really does depend on demand, so that this week, for example, there's not much on. Last week there was about 5 patients that need to be flown around, so it just varies. But when I was flying around in outback Queensland, it was different because we were outside of controlled airspace. Down here, and a lot of the stuff I'm doing with Angel Flight, I'm flying into controlled aerodromes, whether it's Moorabbin, whether it's Essendon, or as it was last week into Canberra, and that controlled airspace can be a bit daunting when you're sitting there and you've got a jumbo, or not a jumbo, but a large aircraft sitting there waiting for you to land, and or vice versa. So it can be a bit challenging. But it's great being a pilot because you get the chance of thinking ahead. So it's unlike driving where you're looking at the car in front of you and the traffic lights. As a pilot, you're looking at what you're going to do at the other end, and you might still be 100 kilometres away.
Yep. Thanks, Mark. So for people who may not be familiar with Angel Flight, can you tell me a little bit about the history and some of its achievements?
Yeah, so Angel Flight was established back in 2003 by a fellow by the name of Bill Bristow, and he was a businessman in Queensland, saw a need. He was a keen pilot, and he started Angel Flight to help those people in need, particularly in rural Queensland. He was awarded a member of the Order of Australia for helping rural and remote communities, and has supported other charities as well. Since it started 22 years ago, Angel Flight has provided more than 60,000 flights and 120,000 ground transfers for people who might need medical treatment. This has helped 100,000 rural families, and there's roughly about 3,500 of us volunteer pilots, but there's about 4,500 volunteer drivers. So when I fly someone into a metropolitan airstrip or airport, then there'll be what they call a ground angel who will be there to pick the patient up and take them from the aircraft to their appointment and back again.
Thanks, Mark. So is Angel Flight a non-for-profit organisation?
Yes, it's a registered charity and it relies solely on donations and receives no government funding. It's actually a really important service as it gets people from all ages needing transport from faraway destinations in other cases where it may be hard for them to get there. So somebody's got to travel in the car for a long distance from somewhere like Mallacoota to get to a city hospital. It is for transporting patients who don't require active care. So even though I am a flight paramedic by training, I'm not to actually treat anybody in the air. My job is to focus on flying the aircraft. And sometimes we take an escort, so a family member or somebody like that, or somebody who might help with looking after them if they're a little bit queasy in the air, for example. And as I said before, it's not just about the flying. We also have ground support between the airstrip and the medical appointments. And we generally call them an earth angel, and they're the volunteer driver who takes them to their appointment, and then we fly them back. All the flights are free for the passengers, and Angel Flight just covers my fuel and landing fees, and I provide the plane and cover any other costs that might come up. There is a big demand at the moment, and as I said earlier, it depends on the cycle of what's required at the time, but I could fly every day if I wasn't working full time, and maybe that's what I'll do when I retire.
Well done, Mark. Now, if someone's listening to this and would like to support Angel Flight, what can they do?
Well, as I touched upon earlier, Angel Flight is a registered not-for-profit charity that relies solely on private donations and receives no government funding. So we'd really appreciate any donation that helps keep the service running.
So how can someone donate?
All they have to do is go to angelflight.org.au and click on the donate button. And there's also a phone number there as well, 1300 726 567. And we should also mention that all donations to Angel Flight are tax deductible.
Thanks, Mark. It really has been great having you join us on the program today. And thanks on behalf of the East Gippsland community for providing your time and your plane to help locals in need. Angel Flight really is an important service.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Damian.
You've been listening to the October episode of Talking Water with this month's guest, the Coordinator of Risk and Emergency Management at East Gippsland Water and volunteer Angel Flight pilot Mark Summers. Thanks for listening. Talking Water is recorded and produced in the studios of Radio East Gippsland, REG FM.